Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Right now on Morning News Now, manhunt in Miami-Dade. The search is on this morning for 3 masked men who police say fired a barrage of bullets into a crowd outside a concert venue over the holiday weekend. The newly released surveillance footage of the suspected gunman may provide some clues. A century later, President Biden travels to Oklahoma today as the country remembers the countless lives lost in the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921. How the president and archaeologists are marking the somber occasion. Off-court controversy. Tennis superstar Naomi Osaka is withdrawing from the French Open, citing anxiety over interactions with the press after facing a costly fine from officials for skipping post-match interviews. We'll bring you her emotional statement on social media. And back on the block as New York City stages a historic cultural revival of pandemic proportions, we sat down with the bar workers in the East Village's storied St. Mark's Place. Their stories of COVID life and a toast to the future. That is not too far from where I live, and it is definitely crowded again.
Is it? Yeah. I think everywhere is crowded again.
I know,
it seems
right?
Like.
Especially all the outdoor dining that's stuck around.
Exactly.
It's kind of neat to see.
Exactly.
Yeah, good for businesses. We'll get to that a little bit later, but we do begin this morning with that manhunt for suspects behind a mass shooting in Miami. Authorities say they found the car driven by the gunman as surveillance video sheds new light on the incident.
NBC News correspondent Sam Brock is in Florida with more on the investigation.
Good morning. Here in Miami, we have seen multiple mass shootings just in the last few days in Wynwood, where I am, and then, of course, in the northwest corner of Miami-Dade County, where investigators say the vehicle the gunman used in that shooting has now been found in a body of water, but no sign of the suspects as a full-fledged manhunt is underway. New video showing the moments before a mass shooting in Miami reveals a jarring sequence. 3 shooters clad in black leaving their SUV with assault weapons only to return 6 seconds later after firing countless bullets and shooting 23 people, killing 2. Now, investigators revealing this murky dot in a Miami canal is the stolen vehicle.
They killed your brother!
As families face indescribable pain, this father lost his son and carried his anguish from Sunday's scene
You killed a good kid!
to Monday's press conference. Miami-Dade's mayor calling what happened an act of domestic terrorism with a manhunt underway for the suspects.
We will do everything we can. We must get these killers off the streets.
The gun violence continuing unabated. In Houston, 2 killed and 2 others injured at a nightclub. The violent behavior getting more brazen by the day. In South Florida, this man firing from his car window days ago, spraying gunfire in broad daylight. The El Mula tragedy wasn't even the only mass shooting in Miami this weekend. I'm in the Wynwood district where 7 people were injured, 60 reported gunshots, all this part of a nationwide spike in gun violence. Every town for gun safety, highlighting that 57 of the largest cities in the country saw a 36% jump in gun homicides from 2019 to 2020, the largest increase since data was available.
I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm relieved, I'm disappointed.
Communities across the country hoping some course of action can calm the constant heartache. Miami-Dade's mayor says she will leave no stone unturned in this investigation, which is now in turbo drive. It includes local, state, and federal authorities, including the ATF and the FBI.
President Biden is set to visit Tulsa, Oklahoma today for the official centennial of the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921. The president's visit caps off a weekend of events to commemorate 100 years since an armed white mob descended on a prosperous black neighborhood. Hundreds died and thousands lost their homes, businesses, and their livelihoods in one of the worst incidents of racial terrorism in American history.
We all have to work together to cure the sickness that ails us as a nation. And that sickness is called racism. It's at our core. It's in the soil. We must acknowledge it and root it out. And so this event today, right here, this is ground zero for human rights.
NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton joins us now from Oaklawn Cemetery in Tulsa, where today archaeologists and researchers will be digging in a mass grave of potential victims. Antonia, good morning. So tell us more about this effort and what's going to happen at that cemetery today.
Good morning, Savannah. So what's going to happen here at Oak Lawn Cemetery today is one part of a two-part archaeological effort underway throughout this area of Tulsa. So one section of that effort is aimed at finding structures, at finding artifacts, physical items that scientists can look at to paint a story of what people owned, were using, what they might have had on them at the time of the massacre, that they hope will illuminate the stories that we've already heard from survivors. And then here at Oak Lawn Cemetery, the second half of that effort is actually getting access to the remains of potential victims, studying them, and finding out what story they have to tell, and the potential descendants who may still be here in Tulsa or elsewhere around the country who are connected to them. And, you know, this is a major undertaking, that the full process of pulling bodies out of the ground and then studying them and finding out, you know, what their connections may or may not be could take months or years. I want you to hear directly from Carrie Stackelbeck. She is the state archaeologist of Oklahoma, and she's going to be on the ground today. Take a listen to this.
Our best case scenario would be if we could learn who these individuals are. We will be taking DNA samples in the hopes that we will be able to employ that technique as a means of being able to put some names to the individuals that we find. But even if we're unable or unsuccessful in that effort, there's still many things that we can learn about these individuals, and we'll learn something more than we do know about them right now.
So what you're going to see is scientists like Carrie Stackelbeck and others on the ground with heavy machinery, first removing soil, and then going in with small hand tools and brushes to do the very careful work of actually removing bodies from the ground, Savannah.
And Antonia, I know a lot of the people that are going to be on the ground there involved in today's dig are from Tulsa with deep roots in the city. How's this effort impacting them as members of this community?
That's absolutely right. It does have a deep impact. And look, within the Black community here in Tulsa, there is overwhelming support for this effort because it's seen as a major part of the reconciliation and healing that people are so hopeful for here. Finding out more about what happened to victims, what's gotten on to families, what they lost, that is a major part of making Black families here feel whole. But there's also anxiety that comes with that. I mean, we're literally digging up dirt and bringing bodies up. And that makes some people, frankly, afraid. You know, I've actually met residents and descendants here who've told me that they've come to the cemetery and had spiritual or frightening experiences. And the Black community here takes those stories very seriously. Take a listen to Alicia Odewale. She is also an archaeologist involved in this broader effort, and she touches on this.
As both a native Tulsan, as a mom, as someone who is somewhat connected to this history, it is kind of troubling at the same time as healing. You know, we are disturbing ground. We're disturbing sacred ground, but we're doing it in order to look and find. So I think it's both like humbling, but also sort of troubling that we're out here doing a lot of this. But that's why we're trying to do it as respectfully as possible.
So what we're going to see happen here is, in addition to scientists here on the ground and archaeologists actually digging, there's going to be community members, people who are part of an oversight board, who are actually going to play a critical role in working with archaeologists to decide what happens to remains, what happens to artifacts, how might people be safely and respectfully reburied, and where will their heritage go, potentially in museums here in Tulsa. And that community collaboration piece is really important to the archaeologists.
Absolutely, and great interview there, Antonia. Now, I mentioned just a bit ago that President Biden will be heading to Tulsa later today. What do we know about his visit?
President Biden is expected to land here around midday, and he's going to head right to the Greenwood Cultural Center. That's an important cultural and historic center that's just a few minutes down the road from where I am right now. And he's going to meet with community members, descendants, and he's also going to give a speech. And what we're expected to hear in that speech is Biden is going to talk about the legacy of racism, of inequality. He's going to be touching on the continued racial wealth gap between Black and white Americans and tying his upcoming policies to the Black community here in Tulsa. Savannah?
All right, Antonia, I know I'll be checking in with you throughout the day. Thank you so much. On Memorial Day, Americans came together to pay their respects and honor those who served. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander has more on the commemorations across the country.
Across America, a moment to remember. Tributes both personal and shared. So many of the traditions silenced by the pandemic now back. The thunderous roar of motorcycles in the nation's capital. Naperville, Illinois, today honoring 114 of its own service members who died while on active duty. And in Dadeville, Alabama, a field of flags and an opportunity to reflect.
As you start putting the flags down, you start thinking of those people who have gone before you.
Treason! At Arlington National Cemetery this Memorial Day, the Commander-in-Chief saluting the fallen.
We're free because they were brave, the heroes of the greatest experiment the world has ever known.
96-year-old Cliff Alvira served as Grand Marshal in Royal Oak, Michigan. The child of Mexican immigrants, he landed at Omaha Beach on D-Day. Just 18 years old, a Navy seaman.
Like the 4th of July, fireworks all over the place. Only this time it was for real.
The words he was so grateful to hear today.
Thank you.
They said thank you.
Thank you for serving our country.
So many reminders about those who have sacrificed for our freedoms, like this from Vietnam veteran Robert Parra at a commemoration in California.
Respect the people that have served. Honor them whenever you can. Just be thankful that we were out there for you.
And now that Memorial Day is through, let's get a check on your morning news now weather for, the rest of the time.
Yeah, which is hopefully less rainy. Bill Cairns, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. The weather across the country was definitely different from Memorial Day. People in the Northeast were bundling up, turning their heat on in their houses. People in the West were cranking their AC, and the soggy weather continues in the middle of the country. So, this has been a broken record now all spring long. We still have flash flood watches. We had a lot of heavy rain in Dallas overnight. Things are beginning to dry out, but I think another round of rain is still likely there in areas of Arkansas through the day. We've also seen this line of thunderstorms near San Antonio, Laredo, now approaching Corpus Christi. So additional rainfall, we could get the highest totals from Memphis up through the Ohio Valley, possibility another 2 to 3 inches, but at least the Dallas, Oklahoma area is finally drying out. And how about the dangerous heat in the West? Heat warnings are in effect for the Valley. Vegas is under a heat warning, and these temperatures this afternoon are going to soar. It's just too early in the season, guys, for temperatures like this. But Redding 107, Fresno 105, even our friends in Oregon are going to be in the 90s. So eventually that heat's going to spread east, but it's going to take about a week or so, guys.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill. See you in a bit.
Coming up, a new and highly contagious coronavirus variant has been detected in Vietnam.
We'll go live overseas for an update next. Vietnam is banning incoming international flights from today for a week as it battles a surge in coronavirus cases related to a new variant. The government says the highly transmissible variant is a combination of those first discovered in the UK and India. NBC News foreign correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer joins us from Beijing with more on this. Janice, good morning. So up till now, Vietnam had actually avoided major outbreaks. So how worried are officials about the spike in cases and what's being done to stop the spread of this new variant?
Savannah, they're very worried about containing this outbreak. The variant is this hybrid of two other variants, making it very contagious. It spreads quickly through the air. Health officials there calling it very dangerous. They're getting help from the WHO with monitoring. In the meantime, they're doing mass testing in big cities. There are curfews, restrictions. Businesses are closing down, effectively seeing the first lockdown. What they're also trying to do is ramp up vaccinations. The problem with that, like in a lot of places in Asia, is supply. They just don't have enough. They're in negotiations with Moderna. They have some Pfizer vaccine. They don't want to take vaccines from China. So it means that only 1 million people out of a population of 96 million has been vaccinated so far. So that's what worries officials most as these variants continue to outpace vaccinations.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, Janice, the World Health Organization has announced a new naming method for all these emerging global variants. It's using the Greek alphabet rather than calling them by the country they were discovered in, like we're calling them the UK variant, the India variant. Tell us about that and why they're doing it.
Exactly. Well, primarily they're doing it to make it easier. These scientific names are hard to say, they're hard to remember, but they say they also want to remove any stigma for the countries that are being very diligent in detecting these variants and reporting them. In a statement, the WHO adding, people often resort to calling variants by the places where they are detected, which is stigmatizing and discriminatory. So as an example, this Vietnam variant, which hasn't been named yet, is a hybrid between Alpha and Delta, what we used to call the UK and India variants. The South Africa variant is now called Beta, and Brazil is called Gamma.
All right. And Janice, let's now talk about the investigation into the origins of COVID-19 that President Biden is really pushing for here. What's the latest on how that's being received in China?
Well, China isn't going to open the doors anytime soon. Look, whether the intelligence community or international partners can come up with anything in 90 days remains a mystery. From China's perspective, they've done their part. They said they've cooperated with the World Health Organization for that joint probe in Wuhan. And from their perspective, the investigation now needs to go elsewhere. It needs to give closer scrutiny to other labs, including in the U.S. The position isn't new. What has changed now is that we're seeing this lab leak theory come into the mainstream to get consideration alongside the zoonotic spillover scenario that scientists have been favoring till now. But scientists are also quick to point out, Savannah, that there is also a very big possibility that we may never have enough evidence to explain how this all started.
All right, Janice, thank you so much.
Let's turn to Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's 12-year grip on power could soon be coming to an end. That's after far-right politician Naftali Bennett agreed to form a coalition with the centrist party, which had been tasked with forming a government by tomorrow's deadline. But this coalition still needs the support of parties from across the political spectrum if they're to succeed in ousting Netanyahu. NBC News correspondent Kelly Kobiea joins us now from Tel Aviv. So, Kelly, first of all, what is the latest on the coalition talks, and how likely is it that an agreement is reached before tomorrow's deadline?
Well, Joe, the parties were all talking overnight. We understand they came close to finalizing a deal in the past few hours. I just got off the phone with the press spokesperson for the centrist party, which is the party pulling all of these different groups together. And he told me that they're really just working on the finer details now. It's not about any big issues that might pull this coalition apart. So it looks like it could happen sooner rather than later. He was fairly confident that it will happen by that Wednesday deadline. And it could come at some point today, although he wouldn't give me a timeline, Joe.
So, Kelly, a variety of parties from across the political spectrum could be involved in this new government, which begs a lot of questions about how well they'll be able to work together. But also, what could it mean for Palestinians and any hopes for a two-state solution?
Well, the way this coalition government has been set up, or will be set up, is that Naftali Bennett, the right-wing candidate, the right-wing politician, will be prime minister first. He is a man who is very similarly aligned to Benjamin Netanyahu, so does not believe in a two-state solution, believes in expanding settlements in the West Bank. So, on the surface, it doesn't look great for the Palestinian cause or any long-term peace agreement in the near future. Having said that, you do have this very broad coalition with 8 different parties spanning the complete ideological spectrum. So it may be that not much at all gets done, whether it has to do with security, the economy, you name it, because there's such a diverse and sort of almost ineffective group pulling together. One analyst here told me it's the glue holding them together is their desire to get Netanyahu out, not necessarily any one policy. So, no, it does not bode well for any progress when it comes to the Palestinian cause. Joe?
And Kelly, speaking of Netanyahu, how is he reacting to all these developments, and is there any way back for him right now?
Well, he's called this government a far left government. He said that it could threaten the security of Israel. Those are kind of his attack lines. At the same time, there are reports that yesterday he reached out to a couple of these politicians who have joined the coalition and offered them positions in a right government. However, again, the people we've spoke to said, look, he's been in power for 12 years, and a lot of these politicians have worked with him and have taken on board his word in the past and have fallen afoul. Like, he hasn't followed through. So they've sort of been burned by him before. The likelihood of him being able to build a coalition now is pretty small. Really, the only card he has left to play is if one of these politicians, for some bizarre reason, unknown reason, decides to drop out. That is all it would take, is one politician leaving the coalition, Joe. But from what I understand, that's very unlikely to happen.
All right, Kelly Kavita in Tel Aviv. Kelly, thank you so much. Let's take a look at what else is making news around the world this morning.
NBC News correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us from Rome. Good morning, Claudio.
Morning, Savannah. Good morning, Joe. Well, the recent discovery of the remains of more than 200 children in a school for Indigenous people in Canada has sparked a widespread calls for action. Now, Indigenous communities all across the nation have asked the government not only for answers, but also for a nationwide search for potentially other mass graves in similar resident schools in Canada. And with only 2 weeks to its kickoff, the Copa America has moved to Brazil. Now, the biggest soccer tournament in South America was initially meant to be hosted by Argentina and Colombia, but due to the massive rise in COVID-19 cases in Argentina and widespread street protests in Colombia, organizers had to move it to Brazil at the last minute. And last but not least, will the rare, if not unique, alpine parrot in New Zealand apparently wasn't meant to be alpine at all, at least according to a new research that says that the parrot moved to the mountains to fly away from us, from humans. But they also warned that the parrot, as many other species, are now endangered by climate change, as if to say that a bird can fly away from humans, but they cannot fly away far enough to escape the damage that we're doing to the environment, guys.
Yeah, wow.
It's a good point. Interesting. But they still got a photo of it. So
yeah,
there you go.
He successfully left us behind.
All right. Claudio, thanks so much.
Memorial Day weekend brought heavy rain to parts of the country, but not a drop where it's needed most. NBC News correspondent Gadi Schwartz has the latest on the devastating drought plaguing the Southwest.
Across the American West, there is a drought so vast it stretches from fire-ravaged California to drying lakes, rivers, and wells in Utah, Arizona, Colorado, and Nevada. And in New Mexico, on a ranch along the Continental Divide, cattle pass through a pond that has been bone dry for years.
Normally, this pond would have water probably 8-10 months out of the year.
Like most surrounding states, about 80% of New Mexico is under extreme drought, part of what scientists now consider a mega drought brought on by the changing climate.
And on this ranch, it's been nearly 6 years since they've seen measurable rainfall.
Casey Spradley and her family have been raising cattle here for over a century.
When you own a piece of land, as long as my family's owned this, I mean, they literally came in a covered wagon. Everything here they built. They developed every water source, dug every well, built every fence. So you don't want to be the generation that loses it.
Last year, the drought forced the family to sell off a third of their herd. And this month, they may be forced to sell another 20%.
We always have to talk about that deadline. If we don't get rain by what day, when are we going to call it quits? You know, when are you going to let it go so far that your cows aren't worth anything anymore?
So what's that date for you this year?
If it doesn't turn around, we don't have grass by the 4th of July, then yeah, I think it's going to be quits.
And it's not just ranching. In New Mexico, state officials are asking farmers not to plant this year if they can afford not to.
It's not in a farmer's DNA to drive by a dry bunch of dirt doing nothing.
Glenn Dugans grows New Mexico chili, the state's most prized crop.
See those little baby leaves? That's what we're looking for.
But because of the drought, he was forced to send chili seed to sprout in a greenhouse in Arizona, then transplant 300,000 plants back to his field when the water finally started to flow a month late.
We're going to do everything we can to survive, but it's tough.
The drought laying bare a desperate hope from those who feed the country, a prayer that tomorrow will finally bring the rain. Gotti Schwartz, NBC News, Sandoval County, New Mexico.
Great story there. Coming up, while Memorial Day weekend may have felt a little more normal, experts warn we're not out of the woods yet.
The state of COVID here in the U.S., according to Dr. Anthony Fauci. Next. A Los Angeles Police Department plane turned a highway near Los Angeles into a landing strip. Video captured Monday shows the single-engine plane landing on a busy Highway 101. The California Highway Patrol said it touched down around 7 p.m. local time, about 35 miles north of L.A. No one was injured. The reason for the emergency landing was not clear, and L.A. police did not immediately respond to a request for comment. But considering that's still around rush hour time, you and I both know we were in L.A. recently. Traffic's back to normal there.
Oh, yeah, it certainly is. It is here, too. But wow, that is amazing to see.
Yeah,
good thing nobody's hurt. All right, thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Memorial Day felt like a return to some normalcy across the country, including in Pennsylvania, where COVID restrictions have been lifted in most of the state, but not in their largest city, Philadelphia. That is where we find NBC News Now correspondent Maura Barrett. Maura, good morning. So explain what's going on here. What restrictions have been lifted outside of Philadelphia, and when will the city follow suit?
So Memorial Day yesterday marked the start of all capacity restrictions across the state, with the exception of Philadelphia, opening to 100% capacity. Bars, restaurants, event venues, any outdoor activities, all can operate at full capacity. That was the exception with Philadelphia, which will actually lift their restrictions tomorrow. And this was a surprise announcement just before the holiday weekend. They were supposed to wait another couple of weeks before they lifted those restrictions because the city has struggled with COVID more than the rest of the state. But because their COVID cases have been declining so rapidly in the city, that they announced that those restrictions will be lifted tomorrow as well. And this is interesting because Pennsylvania hit this milestone. They're actually in the top 10 of states across the country when it comes to 70% of adults having at least one dose of their vaccines. They're ahead of a lot of other states. But the thing that we need to watch is even in cities like Philadelphia, there's only 45% of the community there vaccinated. There's a third of the counties here in Pennsylvania where less than 60% of adults haven't even received one dose. So it's communities like that where vaccine hesitancy is high that as we go into the summer, things are reopening, that we're going to need to watch for further spread. And that's what doctors say we need to be careful about, even as mask mandates and all of that kind of stuff are lifted.
Absolutely. And now restrictions were lifted just yesterday, though, in time for Memorial Day celebrations. I know when we saw you yesterday, you were actually at a parade that had been canceled, but then was able to be back on once these restrictions were lifted. What was the mood like?
It was such a happy assignment I got to do yesterday, Savannah, because I was expecting everyone to be excited, and that's exactly what I saw. It was also more emotional than I think anyone was anticipating. Obviously, it was a somber mood watching the veterans walk in the parade, but there was also dancing and music and color guard, band, marching band, and it was this excited, celebrating mood in the town. But I also watched as neighbors who hadn't seen each other in more than a year hugged each other and reconnected and got to see each other's faces because they were outside and weren't wearing their masks. I wanted to hear from some people that I talked to who described how they were feeling about being back outside again.
It's a great day. Finally be out and see everybody. It's been a while. Dust has settled, and thankfully everybody was able to come together today. And
we're excited. The kids are really excited. We're excited to be amongst friends and family and everybody get together and just enjoy being close with everybody.
What about you? How are you feeling about the summer?
I'm really excited, that's for sure.
I spoke with some children there that were there with their families as well, and they just said they're excited to go visit Grandma and Grandpa. They're excited to play with their friends in the pool, but they know that they have to stay safe because they saw what happened when the schools closed and then they were able to go back to school. And so they kept saying, we're okay with wearing masks, we're okay with being safe, but we just want to see our friends and our family again, and they're looking forward to a safe summer. Savannah.
He said it best. That's for sure. We're all excited. All right, Maura, thank you so much.
Memorial Day weekend did look a lot like holidays before the pandemic, but health officials warn it's still too soon to totally celebrate. Johns Hopkins University says COVID cases in the U.S. have dropped 53% over the past month, but case numbers are still high among those who are not vaccinated. Cases are also still growing globally as scientists discover those new variants. Let's get right to NBC News Now correspondent Dasha Burns with the latest pandemic headlines. So, Dasha, we're now hearing concerns from Dr. Anthony Fauci. What is he saying about the state of the virus here in the U.S.?
Hey, Joe, good morning. Well, like you mentioned, cases are growing globally, which is important to consider. In fact, already in 2021, there have been more global cases of COVID-19 than in all of 2020, according to data from Johns Hopkins. And so Dr. Anthony Fauci told The Guardian that we don't want to declare a premature victory, saying we still have a ways to go. But the more and more people that can get vaccinated as a community, the community will be safer and safer. He also said that as long as there's still some degree of activity worldwide, there's still that concern about emerging variants. And the U.S. has also been under some pressure to do more in that global effort to vaccinate folks, recently pledging 80 billion vaccines in addition, or 80 million vaccines rather, in addition to $4 billion for COVAX, which is the global vaccine sharing program.
Yeah, speaking of the global effort, the European Commission is now calling for the easing of travel restrictions for vaccinated people. What would that look like?
Well, it could look a little bit more like normal. The European Commission proposed that people who have been vaccinated should be exempt from testing and quarantine restrictions when traveling from one EU country to another. The proposal also suggests that people who have recovered from COVID-19 should be exempt for 180 days, and kids who aren't yet eligible to be vaccinated should be exempt when traveling with an adult who is exempt. They should just instead be tested, Joe.
And Dasha, a return to normal also means more concerts, any concerts. It's something we're starting to see in some places in the U.S., but in France, scientists are actually testing out how crowded live events would work in a pandemic world. What exactly are they doing?
Yeah, an interesting experiment there, Joe. In Paris over the weekend, there was a so-called test concert to experiment with how much France could really go back to normal. Attendees did have to wear masks, and they had to show proof of a negative COVID-19 test. But as you can see there, they did not have to socially distance. About 5,000 people were allowed to actually go to the concert. But get this, 2,500 people, volunteers, stayed home as a control group to see and compare how much COVID-19 spread in that group versus the concert goers. Those poor folks at home really falling on their sword there, Joe.
Yeah, no kidding. Still, for those who went, a fun test. That's the type of test that I wouldn't have mind taking.
Exactly right.
I was younger. All right, Dasha, thanks so much.
NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel joins us now. Dr. Patel, good morning. Always great to have you. So what do you make of that study, this test concert in Paris? Could masks be the norm for events like this, vaccinated or not? Do you think this is safe? What's your take?
Yeah, it's good morning to both of you. And I think it's interesting. I think we just have to put it in the context of like where the countries are in their kind of process of vaccination. The EU certainly behind the United States of America, and there are not a lot of countries that are at the U.S.'s levels of vaccination. So I do think that you're going to see kind of a patchwork where some places are going to just have masks as part of the norm. By the way, that's very commonplace in Asia almost year round. And then you're going to have, like we're seeing in the United States, large gatherings where people are being asked to show proof of vaccination to come to concerts. And you can kind of have your roam mask free. So I feel like we're erring more towards the side of things are getting safer here. We will start to consistently relax mask restrictions. Studies like the ones in France are going to tell us a lot. And by the way, we've seen other venues that did not have those mask requirements in the EU, and they did have hot spots and outbreaks. So it's a natural reaction with low rates of vaccination.
Dr. Patel, I also want to ask you about the new naming system the World Health Organization is using for variants that we discussed earlier. So they're using the Greek alphabet. There have been concerns that labeling variants by the countries that they are first found in could create this stigma. Do you think changing the naming system is the right move? And also, just how are you feeling about where we're at right now in our race to vaccinate to stay ahead of these variants?
Yeah, I do. I was happy to see the names kind of change. The WHO made the right decision. It's simpler, Savannah. And like you said, it kind of takes away the stigma. I'm hoping we get to that Omega, though, the ever-ending kind of variant, and to be the last one that we see ever in this pandemic. But it does make it simpler to talk about it, with Alpha being that B117 that's now dominant here in the U.S.
All right. And Dr. Patel, the CDC says fully vaccinated people no longer need to wear masks, but we do still see them on public transportation. We're still supposed to wear them on public transportation. Here's what Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg said about that over the weekend.
Part of it has to do with the conditions of it being a workplace and folks who really don't have a choice about being there the way it is in some other cases. Of course, these rules and regulations and these bodies of guidance always evolve with the science. But the bottom line is we have a set of rules in place to keep people safe.
So he says there it could evolve with the science. When do you think a rule like that could change? And if given the choice in the future, do you think people are going to choose to wear masks on planes and trains?
I do think people will choose to wear masks. And certainly, I'll be honest, even I went a year and a half without a cold, which is insane for most Americans. So I think there will be people, including me, that during kind of height of cold and flu season, I'll probably wear a mask just because I don't want a cold. And I do think that something that the secretary didn't get to mention, September 13th is when the transportation agencies have got set for their expiration deadline. And part of that isn't being spoken about is that the United States doesn't have just domestic travel in a bubble. We've got people coming and going from global places. So as long as we have, and we learned this the hard way in 2020, as long as we do not have kind of consistent mitigation strategies in our most vulnerable spots, which are travel, we are going to put ourselves at risk until we do get to those lower cases. I'm hoping that we'll see cases in the low thousands to hundreds, and that probably will get us by August or September when we see this expire, and then masks will be lifted.
All right, Dr. Patel, we covered a lot there. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Coming up, yes, wedding season is upon us, and yes, the business is booming thanks to relaxed COVID restrictions.
So the costs are skyrocketing. We've got that and tips on how you can celebrate without breaking the bank next. Wedding season is in overdrive. Many couples were forced to postpone their celebrations because of the pandemic, moving all those 2020 weddings to this year.
Industry experts anticipate 2021 will, no surprise, be a record year for nuptials. But now costs are surging for couples and for their guests. NBC News senior business correspondent Stephanie Rule has more on the price you pay.
Like so many brides, Suzanne Morin postponed her walk down the aisle because of COVID.
October 2020 was our date, and then around June 2020 was when we chose to push it. We didn't want to put anybody at risk.
Her new date's scheduled for this September, but she's not alone. Almost half of weddings in 2020 were postponed, sending demand skyrocketing this year.
Trying to find that happy medium of what you're okay with spending now, as opposed to what you weren't originally, it's pretty tough.
Wedding day essentials impacted by inflation and supply chain issues. Since last April, the price of flowers is up almost 5%. Food prices higher too, and hotels up over 8%. Couples forced to cut costs.
And is the number one place to save, honestly, the guest list?
The guest list, of course, you're talking about food and alcohol and a bigger space.
Consider a less desirable date, like a weekday, and be sure your venue is flexible. Extra costs hitting guests too. Airfare alone has gone up over 10% in the last month. If you're a guest, consider the total cost of attending before you RSVP, including travel and attire. Ask other guests about sharing expenses like rental cars or contributing to a group gift. Be comfortable saying no. Watch the live stream instead.
It's the support. It's about the love.
Celebrate without breaking the bank. Stephanie Rule, NBC News, New York.
Cruise ships are now facing a new battle in their efforts to set sail for the first time in more than a year. Operators who sail out of Florida's large southern ports want to require COVID vaccinations. But under an order signed by Governor Ron DeSantis back in April, businesses are not allowed to ask about vaccination status. Let's bring in Brittany Chang. She's a travel business news reporter for Business Insider. Brittany, good morning. So this is one of Florida's biggest industries, and you reported last month that the CEO of Norwegian cruise lines is considering not sailing out of Florida if the state doesn't allow them to require vaccinations. So what kind of impact could this have on the cruise line industry if they decide to ditch the Sunshine State? I mean, do you think that could realistically happen?
Yeah, I mean, there is a chance this could happen. Cruise lines that have announced vaccine mandates are pretty firm with this. Of course, it creates a travel bubble, gives passengers peace of mind. But as Norwegian CEO said in early May, Norwegian has been in talks with DeSantis' office regarding this problem. But ultimately, cruise ships can move and cruise lines can opt to operate out of another state or another country. Although Del Rio did say specifically that he hopes this won't be the case because of how profitable the Florida market is for cruise lines.
Do you think we could see cruise lines try to take legal action on this?
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to say. Cruise lines and DeSantis' office are quite firm with their stance, and they have been in talks with each other. But once again, as Daryl said, there is a chance that this is, a state versus federal issue, and state laws might not apply to cruise lines, although I think everyone kind of hopes that this will become a big political and legal battle.
Now, we know how much tourism means to Florida's economy. It, like so many other things, took a hit during the pandemic, but it's already coming back. Can the state's tourism industry thrive without cruises?
Yeah, as you said, I think we've all seen a lot of people traveling to Florida again. Hotels are booking up at fast rates. So the economy obviously is not wholly reliant on the cruise industry alone, but it is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the state really benefits from this. So many cruise ships are embarked from Florida. But, as DeSantis himself said when he announced that he was going to be suing the CDC, thousands and thousands of Floridians depend on the cruise industry for income. So it definitely is a substantial aspect of the tourism industry in the state.
Mm-hmm. Now, Brittany, some of the first COVID outbreaks were on cruise ships. I mean, we remember seeing passengers stuck on them for weeks as they were quarantining. I wasn't sure the cruise industry would bounce back because people would be worried about something like that. But the industry wants to make sure they're sailing safely, and there are people who want to get back on them. What could cruise ships look like in a pandemic world? How do you get on one of those and stay safe?
Yeah, I think it's also, once again, pretty hard to say, as so many things happened during COVID. But a lot of these cruise lines are still trying to finalize their health protocols and safety protocols as they resume sailing. But, there is a chance we could see masks on cruise ships unless it's a fully vaccinated cruise. There are some cruise lines that, instead of announcing sweeping vaccine mandates for crew and guests, have just announced isolated cruise ships that do sail fully vaccinated without a sweeping company-wide vaccine mandate. So I think a lot of this depends, and I think we'll really see exactly what cruise lines and cruise ships will look like in the next few months, as early as June now.
All right, Brittany, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming up, the welcomed revival of one of New York City's most iconic blocks.
And how bar workers in the East Village's St. Mark's Place navigated a crisis like no other. Next. New York is open for business late once again. As of yesterday, the state's restaurants and bars can go back to pre-pandemic hours with no midnight curfew. We spoke to workers on the storied St. Mark's Place in the East Village about how they made it through the last 14 months and their hopes for the future.
So the city has some rules and the state has other rules. So we're trying to decipher it all. But it's positive, and we'll take that positivity every time.
Obviously, it's great that we're taking these steps forward and capacity is now at 100%. It's great, but it makes no real difference to us because we can't fill the bar with the seating.
We took up a cause soon after we opened to protest sadness. So we protest sadness every day over here on St. Mark's.
I would say for us right now, since we still have to do contact tracing, we still have to take temperatures, we still have to do, keep 6 feet. The change in what the government or what Governor Cuomo or the state is changing doesn't really change our day-to-day so much. But it does let us be a little bit more hospitable, and it's every step is a step towards, I don't want to say normalcy, because I think it's actually, we're all going to come out of this better than normal. This bar bar has been around for so long. I mean, we really, it definitely was a speakeasy. We've been through Prohibition. Like, we just felt like we've been here through everything. How can we close because of the pandemic?
The only tough time on St. Mark's was the winter when it was cold and like you couldn't sit indoors, and that was really tough. But other than that, like the vibe on St. Mark's is great. Like everyone has a great attitude towards things. Like again, the community aspect of things, we've like really come together as one block rather than separate bars. We all work together, especially like open streets. We communicate with each other if there's any issues on the street. Yeah, it's been weird. It's been great. It's been really it's endearing really to see that like no matter in light of a pandemic, people still come together and get through it.
We've changed our business model. We've adjusted on a daily basis, and it's made, I guess I can only speak for myself, but it's made me and us better operators around here. It's great. We're having fun over here. As difficult as it's been, we're having fun over here. And I think it's going to be like the Roaring 20s.
It's going to be very interesting trying to tell people to sit down at 3 o'clock in the morning. But again, like we've adapted this whole time. We've had hurdles, we've jumped the hurdles, so we'll figure it out as we go along.
People are so happy. I mean, you can hear it today and out here. It's like people are talking. People are like so glad to see each other. People just want to be out. They want to take a break. And I think that we offer like a really like a place where people could be themselves, and it just feels delicious.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.